Your shoes go through a lot. Do you leave them at the door?
The whole world is covered in bacteria. What's different about our shoes is that we're not washing our shoes in the same way that we're washing our hands, ideally, throughout the day. So the bacteria that come into contact with our shoes out in the world are definitely coming into our houses with us. This is an extremely simplified version of what I would do in the lab, but essentially what I'm about to do is I'm going to take some sterile swabs and swab my floor, both before and after walking on it with shoes that I also wore outside. These should give us some pretty good gunk. I just want everyone to know how much that grosses me out in real life. Here we go. I'm also going to set aside one plate as a control, just to make sure that nothing's growing on our petri dish just naturally without even applying a swab. And then we're going to incubate these plates for a couple of days and see what grows. Unless you're trained in like industrial sterilization, the amount that your home is getting clean is not as clean as you think it is. But the thing about bacteria is that they don't necessarily just stick to a surface. A lot of them can do something called sporulate, which means that when they dry, they're able to sort of just be kicked up into the air. There's no way of knowing where those bacteria are gonna end up, so they could end up on your pillow or in your kitchen somewhere. So most people, when they hear the word bacteria, immediately think infection or illness, and bacteria are definitely causes of those things. But most of the bacteria, 99% of them out in the world, don't mean you any harm. However, we are finding in lots of studies that some of the bacteria that are coming in from the outside on people's shoes are pathogenic bacteria or bacteria that could make you sick. It really depends on the kind of food that you've dropped. So if the food that you've dropped is very, I know some people hate this word, but moist, such as a piece of meat or, God forbid, like a glob of yogurt. Bacteria are going to be able to cling onto that substance a lot more easily than they would be able to cling onto something relatively more dry, like say a piece of bread. Bacteria actually don't move that fast. Instead of 5 seconds, I would say you probably have a good 15 or 20. So as someone who studies the microbiome, I'm a big proponent of rehabbing bacteria's image. Not all bacteria are bad for you, and you don't want to get rid of all of the bacteria. I think there's a little bit of a misconception around this idea that being too clean is bad for your health. There's very little validity to the idea that getting sick more often as a child will make your immune system stronger. The more sick you get as a child, the more long-term health effects you might be suffering as an adult. It's not that you want to expose your child to as many germs as possible. You want their immune system to get a sense of the world, but getting sick isn't necessarily a benefit. These are 3 plates after 5 days of growth. As we can see here on our control plate, we don't have any growth at all, which is excellent. That means that our growth medium itself is not contaminated. We see that we have probably about 4 different species of bacteria. Maybe 5 species. Then after walking on the floor in our shoes, we can see we probably have some of the same species here, but then we also have all of these little white colonies here, some pink colonies over here, some tan colonies, just a lot more growth and a lot more different kinds of bacteria growing on this plate. The result definitely supports my hypothesis, which as a scientist happens kind of rarely, so I'm really happy. And I don't ever want to promote the idea that all bacteria are bad and you need to get rid of all of them in your environment, because that's not the case at all. Bacteria are coming in from the outside and being added into our environment, and from what we know from studies, we think that a lot of these bacteria are maybe something we wouldn't necessarily want to have in and around our house. Pre-shoes and post-shoes.